welcome Jin-Ya Huang.
Thank you so much, Nikki. All right. I was like, are we still talking about me? Yeah. Nice. Thank you all again. It's such an honor to be here, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to ring in the new year with you. And so, like Nikki said, my name is Jin-Ya Huang. Sounds like Virginia, just without the verb. And so, thank you, Megan and Nikki, for inviting me to come in here to talk about sanctuary, what this word means to me. And so when they first asked me, I just, I thought, okay, English is my second language. I'm going to Google this puppy and find out, what it means. And so, first and foremost, it's a place of refuge or safety. Secondly, it means a nature reserve. And third, according to dictionary.com, it's a holy place, a temple, or a church. And so I find this interesting, and as I interpret this, I thought about it from my perspective. In my early days, I grew up actually in Taipei, Taiwan. I immigrated to America when I was 13. And Taipei, Taiwan to Tulsa, Oklahoma, y'all. It's a little bit of a culture shock. And so, I grew up with 5 sisters, and my parents, really wanted to take us out of the south of Taiwan to have access to education. And having 6 girls, I grew up with this very old Asian concept, and it's really a concept that is still well regarded for worldwide. I don't know why that people don't invest in girls. People don't invest in women. And my parents didn't believe in that. They wanted to invest in us, and they wanted us to have access to education. And so when my dad actually lost his job as a mechanical engineer at a cement factory, and my aunt and uncle said, we're starting a Chinese version of McDonald's in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Do you guys want to come and help? And my parents said, of course, yes. So my oldest sister was already married. The second sister was already engaged, and so they brought the 4 younger ones here. And my maternal grandparents, sorry, it's like really hot up here. I'm like, am I under interrogation light? I did it! Okay. No. So, I thought, okay, I'm gonna come to America. I didn't really want this, but, my grandparents were farmers, and I was so close to nature. It was fun, growing up on a farm and all that, and then I went to the city in Taipei, and then to come to Tulsa was a huge shock. But I was like, wow, free school bus, it was super interesting, and but my sanctuary was always coming home to make art. I knew ever since I was 3 years old that I wanted to do something creative. And I just remember going to school and going to art lessons. That was the only place that you can draw on the ground. And nobody said that it wasn't okay. And contrary to popular opinion, I did not excel in math or science. And so I really needed something that I can hone in on. And so art became my universal language. And coming to appreciate things like this, this is one of my favorite places on earth in West Texas. It's Terlingua, Texas, and this is where I would want to any place I would like to be. This is a huge sanctuary for me. And yes, I remember to credit the photographer. Thank you very much. Yeah, we always want to do that, right? Really honor our friends and neighbors who do this incredible work. And so, that kind of goes into the I suppose, the nature preserve, kind of definition of our sanctuary. And, but growing up, it was just kind of like, okay, there are these outside things that I kind of, always look to, and one of those pillars, obviously, is my constant, is my mother. And my mom, Margaret May Huang, was very much a a chef and a community leader. And so, growing up, it was her that said, just because I didn't get to finish elementary school, that doesn't mean you don't get access to that. Just because I had to get married in an arranged marriage, that doesn't mean you can't fall in love and choose your own path. And just because I don't know how to speak all these languages, that doesn't mean you can't be whoever you want to be. And just having that, it's incredible. She wasn't like your typical mother that was like, get married, marry well, and go find a good job. And it took me years to actually figure out I can actually tell my mom that I'm going to change my major from international business to arts and humanities and not get disowned. She was like, why didn't you tell me this earlier? Why did you waste your money? She made us pay for our own college. We worked at the restaurant, and so that was the thing. That was the deal. Was you come and work at the restaurant. And so I started working at the restaurant that my aunt and uncle started. For those of you who've been around Dallas long enough, it was Egg Roll Express, and so they kind of went up, had obviously with Panda and lost, but 16 franchises. They did well enough. That. In the Southwest, that it was really awesome to kind of see, that kind of, entrepreneurship, empowerment, and yes, and my parents and my aunt and uncle were not beneath child labor, so that one right there. No, you stay. Put her to work. We're gonna work the room just around her. Yeah, no, it was like you're peeling snow peas. You are taking out the trash. You're gonna go clean the toilet because we ain't got time for that. You were helping out. It was a family business. It was a family affair. It was intergenerational. My grandparents were there. My parents were there. We were there. All the generations. Just under one roof, helping out. And so I was too young and stupid to realize this, but my mom, really just saw the opportunity for us, not only in Tulsa, but they were like, oh, there's a franchise that was doing really well in Dallas. And they said, oh, we're going to buy one of the franchises in Dallas, and that way you guys can go to, a bigger university and, be in a bigger metropolitan city and just, fulfill your bigger hopes and dreams, right? And so, in that, so the location they had was over at Farmer's Ranch, and so in the kitchen, my mom would train other refugees, immigrants, and migrants to come and work in our kitchen. She would train them with job skills and send them on to bigger and better opportunities. So for those of you who understand the very complicated past of Taiwan, it is a runaway province from according to China. And so they've always wanted to claim it back, just like Hong Kong, as a colony. And we were actually colonized by the really Japanese and Chinese, over the years. And so my father actually grew up during the war. And he was forced to learn how to speak Japanese and not speak Taiwanese or Hokkien or Mandarin. And my parents remember the days where they had to ration food, rice, soy sauce, and then giving the military and government their food, and then the farmers ended up having to starve themselves and experiencing, food insecurity. So it's really challenging, all these things that, my parents. My ancestors were refugees, who escaped from these, colonization, from war, and famine and trauma, and to take refuge in Taiwan. And but most people, what's happening in Ukraine right now, our conversations with Presidents, Bush and Clinton, they've told us that that is actually buying Taiwan maybe just another year or two of freedom. And it's challenging, those interconnectedness, for my parents to share their oral history, right? And the idea of, what was sanctuary for them, really to be able to get to a safe place and not have to be ruled under communism, not be ruled under, all the socioeconomic issues and political issues and challenges. That was really huge for them. And, coming to America was also like hitting the lottery for them. Finally we were able to afford education and all that. And so, you know, the mindfulness of my mom wanting to do this for other people because she didn't have access, it didn't just go to her children, us. It was actually to all these other people that came across us. So she thought, oh, if I didn't know how to speak English and I didn't have any ready set job skills, how many other people are experiencing this, you know? And so she provided that refuge and that sanctuary, you know, for people who were interested in cooking to, you know, to come and help us out. So when I lost her to cancer, she passed away actually in 2015 from multiple myeloma. I was devastated. I mean, just fallen apart. And like any other thing that I go through, I immediately thought about what it would be like to make art around the things that both my mom and I cared about. My mom cared about food, about feeding people. I cared about making art, making a difference. And so, you know, this was really shortly after I was kind of getting like the triple whammy, if not the double whammy around that time. I had just become a domestic violence survivor, and so I was working with refugee resettlement agencies, you know, to find other clients who were going through DV situations, you know, refugees, immigrants, migrants, and also people who were seeking domestic violence shelter. And so I was already making art to really, you know, tell their stories of survival, because I felt really alone at the time, and I wanted other people to know that they're not alone. And so I thought, well, you know, I wanted to honor my mom. I wonder who else, you know, would be interested in doing this with me. And here's the community, and now you're a part of it. You know, I really just reached out to people and started saying, hey, I have this idea. I want to cook with women. I want to cook with women from war-torn countries. I want to cook with refugee women from war-torn countries and develop a workforce training program where they can learn about, you know, getting a food handler's permit, food manager's license, and, you know, the logistics and operations of, you know, how to work in an American food service business, because they already know how to cook. That's not the problem. You know, these women from, you know, from Iraq, from Syria, from Afghanistan, from Myanmar, from the Congo, from Rwanda, from Burundi, and I can go on and on. All these women are kick-ass chefs. They don't need to go to culinary school. They are fully certified in my mind, because my taste buds know. You know, decades of being at my parents' restaurant, like, we knew what crowd pleasers were. You know, we knew what worked and what sold, and, you know, but and what really sold is when anytime you cook with love, anytime you cook with love, you taste it in every bite. You know, and so, yeah, we put out the APB, you know, with these refugee resettlement agencies like IRC, International Rescue Committee, Mosaic Family Services, you know, Catholic Charities, and Refugee Services of Texas, and we just said, you know, hey, we're interested in, you know, cooking with people, and they're like, are you crazy? You know, because there's no translators that we can provide you, there's no infrastructure, we can barely keep up with resettling refugees, you know, people who are trying to, you know, find sanctuary here in America. We don't have time to, you know, work on an art project with you. Because initially I pitched this as an art project. I wanted a community space for people to be able to talk about, you know, what safety means, what freedom means, and I wanted them to be able to share their storytelling of food and culture and their heritage with everyone, and not have to sacrifice, you know, the Western idea of what good food is. And so they cook their ethnic food, and they share their storytelling, sometimes in their native tongue, and we have translators or interpreters that come and help with the storytelling. And then we share it with the public. And so the first pop-up was actually a collaboration with Cafe Momentum. Have you guys been out there before? Okay. Yeah, yay to Chad Hauser. They're actually franchising. Did you guys know that? Yeah, they're actually getting out to Pittsburgh, and then I think later on Atlanta and Nashville. And so what they do is they help youth coming out of juvenile detention halls, but they do an internship and they teach them how to cook and they go on to bigger and better opportunities. And so when we started Break Borders, we're like, it's like Cafe Momentum, but for refugee women. It's like, are we doing a movie review? Like, this is what do I have to do to get you people to understand it? So it's like, I'm not speaking Chinese, it's not Mandarin, totally English here. And so running a social enterprise, that's super interesting too, right? It's not really prevalent here around the South, and so, we actually kickstarted as an LLC. And so how am I doing on time? You can start just nudging at me. Do I need to fast forward? 15, 20 minutes? Okay, cool. All right. So so this is my 6-word story: social practice artist turned accidental entrepreneur. Have you guys heard that? Supposedly Hemingway kind of said this. You tell me. What did he say? Do you know the 6-word? Do you know his 6-word story?
Oh yeah.
Okay, bring it.
Baby shoes for sale, never worn.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Baby shoes.
Baby shoes for sale.
For sale, never worn. Yeah. It makes you want to know more, right? So I hope that makes you want to know more. Here we go. So we make food for good. And so, after the pop-up, Chad was like, let's just why are you still talking about this? I was like, well, I pitched this idea for two years and nobody wants to take it on. It took our previous administration to obliterate immigration and tell refugees there's a travel ban and you cannot come to our country. It took, lots of people saying no to me for the longest time. And, so finally Chad was like, okay, we're not going to say no anymore. We're going to say yes, and we're going to pilot early. We're going to fail early, and we're going to just try things out. And I said, okay. We invited 80 of our closest friends. It was much like this. We just, propped tables up. The interns came, and the ladies cooked, and, people were like, hey, how can we get... This was delicious. We so enjoyed the storytelling. We have never been to a catering event, never been to a food event where we got to hear, the cooks actually come out, the chefs actually come out to engage with you, to tell you about the origin of the food, the history of their lives, what their personal lived-in experiences were, what it's like to live as refugees abroad, what it's like to come to America, and what their experience was cooking with Break Borders. They were like, how can we get this to our home? How can we get this to our work? How can we get this to a workshop, to a conference? And, so people just, started calling, and catering was the best way. The ladies who have, lives, they're married with kids and, and needed a way of making dignified way of living. And they, once they finish the 2-year program, they actually, they work while they train as catering, and they just, they'll start out with their own entrepreneurship, or they will actually, they'll cook for their mosque, during Ramadan, or they've actually been placed at restaurants. And have you guys been to Hello Dumpling lately? Some of those cooks are actually Burmese refugee cooks from Myanmar who were escaping from Myanmar due to religious persecution. And so we were joking with June. She was like, I can't find anybody to pinch dumplings in the 214 area code, so that would really work out. And so first we started out as a catering company, and then we tried out the packaged goods, and now we're on to some handmade cookies. And so, it's all an experiment, right? It's all a social experiment of who wants to invest in, social capital, which is people. And the thing is, the ladies are so in love with sharing their food and culture with people that when they talk about Break Borders, it's like, that's a limerick, by the way. If you say that 10 times really fast, I will give you a box of cookies. I brought cookies actually to bribe people, so the people who have actually participated, you're going to get a little bit of sweets. So they really they tell people hey, I'm cooking with this crazy lady. No, they don't say crazy lady. They just I'm cooking with this company, and we serve food and we tell stories, and it's really just it's hang out, with your family and sisters all the time, and It's really fun. It doesn't feel like cooking. Do you want to come and cook with me? That's how we recruit, is by word of mouth. And that's actually how people find out about us, is by word of mouth. We don't do a huge amount of advertising. It's like, honestly, like when you trust people and you're like, hey, I really believe in this cause, I really believe in this purpose, I really believe in this why, it's so easy to like bring people in, right? And like when they have created that place of refuge and an idea of like, this is where I can go, for freedom, for safety, a place that's, not only safe but also courageous for me to like share like who I am 100%, like it's amazing, right? And so we've really enjoyed, creating that with people. And so this is one of our amazing cooks. She's actually now our food manager. This is Nawara. And that name actually in Arabic means flower. And she's really blossomed, like when she actually taught French back in Syria. And coming to America, like she was like speaking English fluently by 6 months, but she kept saying, oh, I'm so sorry, I don't speak English very well. And I'm like, you have learned like 6 different languages, like throughout, because they like escaped. She was like pregnant and like she had to, walk her children with like no water, no food in the desert for 10 days to get to, to Turkey. And like, and so many of the refugees will go through all these different countries, and then she's like, they pick up these languages along the way, so by the time they get here, English is not a second language. It's like 4th, 5th, or 6th, language that they've picked up. And what's amazing is not only is she's a great cook, but she's actually an amazing baker. And if you guys know the difference, it's like baking is a little more of a science, it's a little more precise. And what's awesome with her is like one of her superpowers is finance. That girl works with our CPA, to get payroll done. Like, don't make me do it. Like, please God, And so like, she's really come into her own. And people ask her like, how do you know how to speak English very well, so well? And she's like, oh, I learned. So I work at Break Borders. Jin-Ya makes us do all kinds of stuff. Sometimes I don't even know where I'm going. I could be serving at the Bush Institute, hanging out with presidents, or I could be like, at the public library, serving people who are experiencing homelessness. I could be anywhere at any time, and just being able to, have that exposure that they're not living in their bubble, and that cross-pollination has been incredible. And, and it's learning stuff like this, we go through cultural trainings too, like talking to people, getting to know people from other communities. And I won't go super into this, but you guys check out this article. That'll kind of help, some of these CreativeMornings, congregations, if you will. And so, like I said about the word of mouth, that kind of social impact has, a multiplier effect. People sharing, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And, having collaborations of people, who show up and say, you know what, Jin-Ya, maybe you need a little help with infographics because nobody wants to hear you talk for like hours on end, and so this, tells that story, right? The people we're serving, their families, and UN studies show that if you invest in women, they will invest 90% of their income straight back into their families and communities, whereas that statistic for men is only about 40%. Y'all, guys, pony up! What's going on? And so when you invest in women and girls, it's a high ROI, it's a high return of investment. So do it. And that's why we do this. We work with women from all around the world, and I love that. They do a lot of Break Borders on their own too. This is our food manager, Rania Ahmad, on the left. In the middle is Basmina. She was actually a part of the parolees who were evacuated from Afghanistan last year. They abruptly had to leave their country, and you're hearing now, no women are supposed to, no women or girls are allowed to go to a university or receive any education. And, all those things that, that we do here is to fight against that. So the work goes far. We've had the pleasure of being on the Today Show. We have been able to, really, when they called about Time Magazine, I was like, you mean Jose Andres is going to be on the cover? And I'm like, what? What did I ever do to deserve this? It's not me. that people, this is the community lifting us. That's how we get here. And it's in any time that I experience any kind of stress, distress, trauma, all that, it's our communities coming to our aid. And when they said, okay, you need help, you want to share your story, we'll come help and share your stories. We'll take pictures. And Kathy, everybody, like here, everybody stepping up to do this has been just phenomenal. And like I said, these are just a few of our community partners that offer that sanctuary for the women that we work with. And, there's so many, I can't even fit them on here, but these are just some of the, incredible support that we've received, throughout the years. And so this is one of my favorite civil rights activists, and this is one of my favorite quotes from her. We are the leaders we've been looking for. There's no need to wait for Superman to come and save us. The work starts with us. And, and I think a lot of the things that we talked about before, the dictionary, explanation or definition of, what sanctuary means, right? Like, there is usually a place, a person, a gathering, somewhere that you find that. But honestly, to me, I really believe finding our sanctuary, our holy temple within ourselves. It all begins with me. It all begins with you. And so I really, hope that you think about, what that looks like and how you treat yourself, when you go on your creative journey and discover, what that really means for you. Because you can go any place in the world, but when you come back, you remember, I love to travel, and I'll go all around the world, and when I come home, I'm depressed. I'm oh no, why can't I just be on vacation mode all the time, right? But then I remember, oh, I'm doing work that is purposeful, that is meaningful. I feel like I'm moving the needle just a little bit, making some impact. When the women, are on the fireside chat panel, talking and sharing their stories and telling people that now they have power back. Now they have power back. I don't coach them on what they say. They share, what they want to. And for them to find that word meaningful is really incredible. So before I break out into this, I may kind of want to do a little bit. So, parts of this is, my mom really taught me a lot about just what interfaith work is like. I was raised Buddhist, and I've been working with a lot of women just from all around the world of different faith. And, and I wanted to actually share some of these parts with you. And so after, actually we'll do it after, how much time do we have now? 10? 15? 15 still? Okay. How did that work? Time loop, the Matrix or something. Okay. Well, and I can walk you through it, or we can do this together. We can do a little, we're going to do a couple collaborative activities here, just to kind of talk about, the renewal, the inclusion, and, the type of work that my mom really taught me. And so, like Nikki said, we're actually, coming up on Lunar New Year. I'm super Chinese. I'm super Asian. Everything about me is I walk, talk, you're gonna know everything about Taiwan. And so so when Nikki said, oh, so also Lunar New Year, I was one of my favorite activities for people of all ages is I love doing this red envelope bookmark. And so you guys know Sunday is actually Year of the Rabbit coming up, right? Okay. And if you don't know your Chinese zodiac, what animal you are, you must find out. This is every other astrology. It's forget Taurus. You're the dog. You can really get into some stuff there, And so So I brought these red envelopes. They're pre-stuffed with a lucky penny inside for you. And usually there's a lot more money in that, but that's all I can afford. All I can afford, y'all. Like, keep ordering big orders so I can afford to give you more money in your money envelope. And so like, you know, you do it for like New Year's, you do it for special occasions, when somebody has a child, when somebody gets married, you know, like red envelope is super lucky because it comes with money. And lots of good luck. And so I pre-stuffed them with a lucky penny inside for you. And then each one of these, they all have different, you know, cool saying on it. Like yours actually says fortune, fool. And yours says 万事如意, so like 10,000 things will always go your way. It's really like millions, but you know, it's all good. Yeah, and then what else is, yeah, 万事如意, that's also the everything will go your way. Fu is good fortune. Oh, 大吉大利, that's like lots of good luck and lots of prosperity. Yeah, so like they're all good things. Like it's not like the world is gonna end, follow me. There's nothing like that. Yeah, like super positive stuff. And then I obviously, you know, did a little branding and did a little, you know, break border stickers on the back, just so you remember me. If you don't like them, you can totally peel them off. But I'm like, come on. And then that's kind of like my business card. And then they're pre-hole punched already. And so, and I think some of you got ahead of it, and actually I brought the little antique coins that kind of, you know, hark back to like dynasty days of like centuries ago of like what people carried as actually as money. And so they're on red strings that you can actually just tie on with the red hole. And then you can use them as a bookmark, or you know, or just something that you want to put, you know, someplace, you know, for good luck, for good feng shui, for good anything. Like, yeah, have fun at it. And I have a particular way I do it, but you don't have to. You like if you guys just kind of want to like, you know, tie it on your own. But the funny thing is like my mom was always kind of a little bit superstitious about stuff like this. You know, like you always tied it like, you know, either like in lucky numbers, right? You know, like 3, you know, you can never divide it, it never ends. 6 is like, you know, all things will go your way. 8 like rhymes like with like prosperity. 8, the number 8, and the number 9 rhymes with like forever. I'm like, is there an unlucky number? Oh, she's like, oh yeah, the number 2 rhymes with like hunger, like you never want that. And the number 4 rhymes with death. You never want that either. And so like when you shop for houses, you never want to do that. And so like I'm like, oh, okay, you know, so it's hilarious. But you guys, you know, however you want to do this, you can go ahead and just, you know, tie the little coins on. And so you can tie like 3 knots, 8 knots, 9 knots, whatever, 6 knots, 8 knots, whatever that you're comfortable with. Did you get one of the coins? If you didn't get a coin, yeah, just help yourself. Yeah, cool. And so like I typically, yeah, sure. So I typically like just take, because I like the coin to stay in the front, and so I'll actually take the 2 little string, and I'll put it through the hole from the front, like this. Can you kind of see that? So your coin is actually in the front, and the string kind of is like this. Do you see that? Okay. And then I kind of basically just like take this, and depends on how loose or tight you want the coins to be to the very top. I wish I had like a macro lens, you know, like video thing to like help us. And then I just like tie it as tight as I can up here. Did you kind of see that?
Yeah.
A little bit? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so now that it's already tied on here, you can basically just kind of start 1 knot, 2 knot. I'm going to do the 9 thing. 3, 4, 6, count with me. 7, that's 7. 8, rhymes with prosperity. And 9, One more time, I didn't hear that. 久, uh-huh. 久 rhymes with forever. And so you will have good luck, prosperity, good fortunes, everything awesome, forever and ever. There you go. Yeah, sure, yeah, share those out. Awesome. Thanks, yeah, of course. How many do we need? 3? Do they want to tie their own, or do they want to tie one already made? They would tie their own. Okay, cool. Yeah. Here's one. And did you find all the points? Okay. Yeah. So, like, when you go to any Asian market, they'll have, actually, like, the year, of the zodiac. And so here's some of the really cute ones out there. Super colorful rabbit. And here's another one. Here's a more simple one, if you can see the design. More modern. And,
Jin-Ya.
yeah. What's that?
I just wanted to add that it's also the year of the cat for Vietnamese.
Oh, there you go. Lunar New Year for Vietnamese New Year is the year of the cat. And tell us a little more about.
Oh, I don't know anything besides. There's a lot of historical facts and stories. Not facts. They're stories. So I don't know which one is factual.
That's okay. We love lores.
Yes.
Legend has.
So this is the only year where the Vietnamese and the Chinese lunar doesn't match up.
Oh, okay.
So, but they say that there was confusion or possibly confusion with the word Mao, and Mao means cat in Vietnamese. So since we're derived from the Chinese, like either it was out of defiance or out of confusion. So or they just stuck with it.
Well, I love that there's diversity even in the Lunar New Year, and however we celebrate it and whatever animals we do that with, we do it happily. So thank you so much. Happy Year of the Cat, and let's see. So how I'm just gonna do one little song and teach everybody a little something, and then we'll kind of close out if that's okay. Okay. Cool. So one other activity that this is how inclusive we are. So my cousin actually, as it turns out, passed away last year. And one of the things at his life celebration that he had asked to be sung is a song that is actually a Sufi chant. And somebody actually said this to almost a song in a way that that really celebrates, I think, like the definition of like giving away the power and giving into the power of love. And so when we spread his ashes in the middle of this beautiful river, like this was one of the songs that he had asked to be sung. And so I wanted to share it with you because the people who set this to music actually, gave it words in English and also in Arabic. So I can't sing to save my life, but I wanted to kind of share a little bit of like just the multicultural aspect of what we do here. Being a creative and speaking the language of art is a universal language, and take this wherever you go. And share people with share love with everyone. Okay, so it goes something like this. All I ask of you is forever to remember me as loving you. And then we're gonna sing that 2 times. Okay, you want to try that with me real quick? Okay. All I ask of you is forever to remember me as loving you. All I ask of you is forever to remember me as loving you. And then the next one, this is in Arabic. And so basically this in Arabic means God is love, lover, and beloved. Okay? This is just interfaith, we're just embracing the idea of love together. And so I'm going to say it first before I sing it. It goes, Ishq Allah, Mabud Allah. Say that with me. Ishq Allah, Mabud Allah. We're going to do that 4 times, okay? Ishq Allah, Mabud Allah. Ishq Allah, Mabud Allah. all together, starting from the top. All I ask of you is forever to remember me as loving you. All I ask of you is forever to remember me as loving you. Ishkala mabudala, ishkala mabudala, ishkala mabudala, ishkala mabudala. Okay, if you feel compelled, all the people who are sitting, can you actually gather and stand up with everybody that is actually everybody. Let's just stand up. Let's just stand up together. Let's just stand up together and try to form a circle or a couple of circles and whatnot. And then if you're so moved and if you don't mind with me, hold the hand of the person if you're not scared.
Okay, great. Are you okay with holding hands?
Yeah. It doesn't matter if your hands are clammy because I'm singing off key and you're like super cringy. Oh no, just singing off key and she's
They're moist.
Yeah.
There we go. We got 2 elbows.
However you do it, just hold it at the hand.
We're holding him.
Yep.
We're holding him with our elbows.
Start this again. All I ask of you is forever to remember me as loving you. All I ask of you is forever to remember me as loving you, loving you. Ishkala mabudala, ishkala mabudala, ishkala mabudala, ishkala mabudala. And then we're going to start to wave our hands in the air. All I ask of you is forever to remember me as loving you. All I ask of you is forever to remember me as loving you. Ishkala mabudala, ishkala mabudala, ishkala mabudala, ishkala mabudala. All right, give yourselves a beautiful community you have built here, and thank you so much for doing this incredible experiment with me. And sometimes, yeah, maybe it's a little uncomfortable getting to know new people, but these are our friends, these are our family, these are our neighbors. You are all our brothers and sisters in the movement. Thank you. I'm so grateful for your partnership and being in this community with us, and thank you for helping to build this sanctuary together.